Hello,
Say
everyone.
something, Matt. Say something.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream tonight. So I want to do this to JD. He intros, so I'm just confused. You guys,
Say
it just...
something, Matt. Say something. Whoever's driving the stream does the intro chat thing because you've got all the buttons.
I've got all the buttons. Yeah, I've got all the buttons. I love having
Yeah.
buttons. Anyway.
Good. Right, what are we doing, Matt? Let's focus. What are we doing, and on what platform are we doing it?
We are on the Xbox Series X, seen for my tasteful colour scheme, and we are playing on the Dresden line. We last week we showed, sorry, Tuesday, not last week. It's Tuesday.
Yeah.
We showed the 146 and something else, the BR101. So tonight we are going to run the Talent 2 along from Gross 9. Then we're going to run the BR143 along as an S1 service, and then we're going to run the BR185.5 as a freight service. So
I'm excited.
it should be amazing. And the freight service,
I think it's going to be good.
I will dig into a little bit more about the brake mode settings on the freight service as well, which is quite fun and something new for this route. I talked about it last time. I can show you this time. Right, okay, let us... so 350 services, we talked about this last time, but just to recap, 7 tutorials, 6 scenarios, 350 services. That 350 is including the BR101 extra layer, for which you need the BR101 and Hauptstrecke Rheinrohr.
Right.
Right.
Are there any limits with regard to layers on other platforms? Are these available across the board?
Yes, yeah, the testing's not showing any issues. So certainly, as at this point, it is still exactly the way it is on all the platforms. The same. So that is so far. If testing issues come up, there's still a bit of testing to go. Then that may change. But at this point, it's still looking good. So I'm reasonably confident that's how it's going to end up.
Okay.
So that's good. Right, let's go for Talent 2. And what did I pick? 8 AM. Right.
You've planned this one out.
I did.
For those of you who haven't seen the news, yes, there is a release date. It is 1 week today. Next Thursday.
Hype.
Oh, I mean that's subjective. If you are feeling the hype, Matt, then go for your life.
I'm always feeling the hype. Desk lights on. I do like the desk lights. It reflects off nicely on that. Train lights on. And round here, we need some of the good stuff. P's of B and C for on. Shut the doors. They didn't really want to get on. I think I've sorted everything else out.
We're in a Talent 2 here.
We are indeed in the Hauptstrecke. The Talent 2, yes. Talent 2, we've got the VVO and NDV licensed brands on there now. So they run the services, some of the services with Talent 2. Again, with the extra licenses on there. DV services. So this train's basically been rebuilt from scratch. It's one of those things that just... But why? We've already got Talent 2s, but they're all subtly different in really annoying ways. The team had to basically rebuild this from scratch. So it's had a polish up on the physics, polish up on the audio. All the trains really have. We've tried to give some form of an upgrade. The Talent 2 in Colne was in pretty good state actually, so physics-wise that wasn't bad, just needed some minor work.
Right.
But the some of the others, like the 146, the 185, the 143, have all had fairly major updates to them. So, so you'll hopefully hear that in the 143 as well when we get to that.
Well, when you say hear that, so there's audio changes.
Yeah, audio changes. 146, 185, and 143 have had some audio rework. They're not new samples or anything, but they've had a rework in how they've been implemented, and how it's implemented is often half the battle. Hopefully you'll agree they sound better. Physics have been completely gutted and redone on most of the trains, locos and stock, based on all sorts of feedback that we've been getting and been able to research and find out ourselves. Let me just show the map view so we know where we are at the moment. So we're in this section of the route here. which is the Grosenheim branch line. This is the Cottbus line up here, so this route heads up that way up to Cottbus. But we're going to head down onto the line down here, and we'll join up at Priestwitz and then run down to here, which is Coswick.
Okay. So why is it we can't retrofit the other Talent 2s with this one? If this is the latest and indeed greatest, what's the issue with just substituting this in?
So you wouldn't substitute. This is a Talent 2 unique to this area, but you could take the physics and the sound potentially and upgrade older Talent 2s, and that would be a preserve crew task to look into doing that. But this specific Talent 2 is the Talent 2 that runs in this area. So just the same as the silver one on Rapid Transit is the one that runs there, and the 4-car one that we've got on Cole is again the one that runs there. They are different units, even though same cab and so forth. It's quite from on the Talent 2's perspective. It's as a product, as a train product, it's quite versatile. They can customize it according to the various operators' needs. It just it just all looks the same to us. But actually there's a lot of differences in terms of the internals and the passenger layout and so forth.
Someone quite rightly has just pointed out that it seems awfully dark for 8 o'clock in the morning. What month are you driving in here?
November.
November. Okay, well that's not unrealistic then. And request for the face cams to be evaporated.
Oh yes, let's do that.
Someone else asked which version of Xbox are we on? We're on the Series X this evening.
Yeah, this is Series X. Notice no glitching when you turn. So on the subject of last week's stream and the very poor frame rates and so forth, I do have a little bit of an update on that. So it turns out my laptop has a fault and is permanently thermal throttling itself. Yeah, I'm going to get a new machine for streams going forwards, because that one's it's fine for normal purposes, but it's not very good for demoing the game at all.
So you've got a fresh piece of kit coming.
Yeah, stonking one by the sound of it. So
yeah.
Right, we're coming round, join on the main line here. There's the main line over there.
Chris asks, are physics not a core function that apply to all locos? Which aspects of physics are per loco?
The behaviours of the train. So physics as a concept is certainly, a simulgraph as a concept is, but how fast does it accelerate? In what way does it accelerate? Simulgraph, or if you look at some of the old diagrams that were on Dovetail Live, in some of the articles we've sort of shared some of the actual simulgraph diagrams. That's the bit that's unique to the train, because that's the characteristic, the way that train works. You don't want that to be common, otherwise all the trains will drive the same. So all the stuff that's unique to the train is what's in this train.
There we go. Mikey says TSW looks great at sunset. Well, this is sunrise rather than sunset. Now, presumably the sun is actually rising in the east there.
That's the east.
If you say so. I'm not familiar with this particular piece of geography.
We're here facing, so it's southeast at the moment we're facing, actually.
Okay, all right. We need to see PIS and FIS, if at all possible.
It's the controller.
So you're experiencing what our home users go through.
I know. I have a plan.
Needs a little bit of snapping.
It's snapping. It's also, I've been looking at where other games do it, and there's inertial control in some of them where they are they're much more. You need a lot more movement at the lower end of the stick range and less movement at the outer range, and then they build up inertia to make it move quickly. So you end up with lots of very fine control at as well as the ability to not take 6 years to turn the camera 360 degrees.
Yeah.
So that's something that we've certainly got on the list to have a look at. So this is some of the FIS stuff on the FIS in terms of destinations, and this should be retrieved from the route. So again, you should be able to run this from where am I? This is a RB31 Grosenheim Coswick service. So, and then externally at the moment, this train is only showing RB31. It's not showing Coswick. So I've been looking into the PIS issues as to why PIS are on the platforms as well. They're not always showing the ultimate destinations. And we know what the problem is. And they need extra virtual destinations added to support the destinations off route. But for various boring technical reasons, I can't do that right now because those files are busy with something else. Once those updates are done, we can then get the updates in for this, update the timetable, and all be good. So that is a post-release fix coming probably in the same vicinity as the Brighton update. But let me confirm that once we've got the work in. But either way, we're looking at in pretty rapid order getting that in there because it's wrong. It needs to be in there. All the other routes that we've done it have got the virtual destinations, and it's been missed here and needs fixing.
Yeah.
Okay, that was just showing off the PZB is working perfectly well, just to be clear.
Nice.
So, test passed. It's better.
Cole Cone asks, will the AI get stuck after a while, like on Boston? No, because that's not intentional. And therefore, after a while, the AI should continue running.
Yeah, we're looking to find out what's going on Boston. It's weird. Didn't occur for us, but we are seeing it happening for you, so we are looking into why that's happening and why it wasn't happening for us. So we'll get that on. That is a bug that will get fixed.
Could we do a bit of horn action? Everybody always wants the horn.
German horns, clown car.
Don't say that. And if you've got FPS capabilities, it would be nice to have them switched on.
1 second. It's not plugged in. 1 moment. Let me just plug the keyboard in. I know how important people like the FPS. So much so that I prepared in advance, obviously.
What happened to Jamie in Workshop Wednesday yesterday? It was on. It was just on YouTube. If you missed it yesterday, you can watch it on YouTube today. Yeah, you see, this is what happens when you ask for the FPS. There you go. It's just about visible. If you can't quite make it out, we're doing 5960, 5960 at the moment. Now, can we expect the lighting system from this route to be implemented on the preserved routes? Is it something that is easily portable?
No. Some bits are. We would certainly like reflective signs, for example. That's a relatively straightforward material change. So we would be looking at doing that. Again, all of this is a preserved crew task. We have to go in and each route will need its assets updated, but that one is on the straightforward side. Then you've got the time of day system, which has tweaked the lighting level so that dark is dark, and it's got smooth transitions throughout the day. That's easy to apply, but can't be done until the route itself has had a night lighting pass. Otherwise, everything just plunges into eternal darkness. So it needs all the lights that have been added. That's quite a bit more work. That's actually the team would, the artists would need to go in and revise them, look at the lighting that's been placed, revise it, place it everywhere it needs to be placed, so that it's there. Once that's done, you then enable the new time of day system on there, and then that will give that. So it's not a trivial thing to apply, and it's something that Adam's team could look at on a case-by-case basis where it would add notable value or interest into the route. So we're heading down now. We're on this section here. We've got the two lines that run close together. You've got the avoiding line over here, which gets really, really close to this one. And then you've got the normal passenger line here. The avoiding line is used by Intercity Express and Freight. I think mechanics that don't want to stop at those 2 stations, basically.
Right. So is there a 5-car variant of this in the scenario planner formations?
No, because to do a 5-car talent 2, you have different coaches structured different ways.
Sure.
There is no 5-car version of this talent 2. It's not the same as you can't just put 2 extra of these coaches and make a 5-car. No, there is. This is a 3-car talent 2. We did look at what would be involved in doing the 5-car talent 2, but it was virtually a completely new 5-car unit, which didn't feel a particularly good investment because it would just look like all of the other ones.
Do we have any overhead line signals on this one?
Overhead line signals.
I ask the question in the way it is presented.
I'm not sure what that refers to. I probably should know, but I don't. Let me turn the game sound down just a little bit. Right, can you hear me and Sam over the game now properly?
You lucky people.
Right, 3 kilometres now to Nahverkehr.
So the way that we've done lighting here, because obviously lighting's been a reasonably hot topic for us over the past year, is this going to be the standard for everything we put together from here on?
Ideally, yes, but I'm not going to commit to that because this was done. A lot of the lighting work that was done here was actually done by an external contractor. Everyone knows Ed, and they know Ed and Lucas. They worked on the lighting on this route. So our team need to unpack what they did and work out how we can do that then as standard. And I know the team have looked at what they've done here and they're over the moon with it. They think that it's obviously a big step up, and they will want to try and achieve that. But we need to make sure that we can do that, and it's not just a one-hit wonder or a difficult thing to keep repeating.
Got you. So the German for the overhead signals is Fahrleitungssignal. Just so you know.
Okay. So Lucas is my German signalling expert. I'll have to ask him afterwards and find out if they were on there. To the best of my knowledge, all the signals that should be on the route are on the route in the right places. So, but I'm not aware. I've certainly not seen any overhead signals. Right. I'm assuming that you mean signals that are above me somehow.
Am I using the correct microphone? I should be, but we don't know.
Sounds fine to me.
I am on the correct microphone. But this comes the science that we use here is we use Microsoft Teams to talk to one another, and then that's streamed out using XSplit. So I'm at the far end of the 2 tin cans and a bit of string that is Teams. I do have many microphones, yes, but I don't think that's necessarily pertinent. Old Davey says, why don't you hire Unreal experts?
Well, the job adverts go out. We have had Unreal experts that are part of the team, and they work on various things. So I would say we do hire Unreal experts, but you can only hire the people that advertise that apply for the jobs. But yeah, our team do know Unreal, but there's a lot of specialist areas. Unreal is like saying, do you know cars? There's an awful lot that inside Unreal, and finding a lighting expert is as much as finding someone who understands the art of light, as much as it is about what button does what in Unreal to make a light appear and do the right thing. So it's actually light is a really, really different subject that needs specialist knowledge, and as it happens, Ed is really good at this stuff. And this is what our team want to learn, what Ed has done, and then be able to replicate that in the right way on other routes, because different routes have different colour lights, different tone of lights and so forth, and so you don't just want to make all the routes look exactly like this. That would be wrong. You want to find the right way of expressing each route in light, and also acknowledge that some routes it is just dark between the stations, and not be afraid of that.
For those asking about the release date, the release date is 1 week today, so the 9th of September. And if you've got the season ticket, it will do its magic automatically. Exactly what that magic is, don't know yet. Any news on cab texture fixes?
Make a note of what's going on there.
Any note on train information screen fixes?
So as I mentioned earlier on, if you're referring to PIS not showing off-route destinations, like the trains that go to Leipzig currently show that they are going to Dresden, not to Dresden, to Riesa. And the trains that go the other way will show Dresden as their endpoint, for example. So we know what the issue is there, but we can't do a fix in time for release because the files are actually involved in some other work that's going on. And so there's a bit of a conflict. So we'll get that out of the way, get this stuff done, and then there'll be a patch update shortly after release. Right, this is Marine Bottler. That's a collectible.
The stream is much smoother today. Well, today we're on Xbox rather than PC today, so draw what conclusions you will from that.
Well, we're on Xbox rather than PC that is misbehaving badly.
No, it's just Xbox versus PC. Go and have a quick walk through the train. You've got time.
Let's do that.
We always like to see the internal of the carriages. The team spend time putting these together. I mean, we might as well have a look at them.
Yep. Yeah, we're very fortunate we're able to get someone local to Dresden to go and do a full photo survey of this unit,
right?
So that the team were able to build it directly from actual reference, which was very, very handy. I think it was actually Jesper from Rivet that helped us with the reference for that. Right. Doors.
Yeah, I know. I made you late. You can blame me. I don't mind in the slightest. But I suspect you were late already.
Fine, fair enough. I'm still going to blame you.
Well, you did trip the PZB earlier on.
Yeah, that was for demo purposes, just to be clear.
Could someone answer Pegasus on my behalf, please? Thank you. Is there any update on the cab texture glitch on Xbox?
So I don't have an update from the engineering team. What does seem to be the case is I'm not seeing it on this journey. So I'm going to have a chat with the engineering team and see whether actually a fix has actually made it in, and that's what that is. So actually, it was on their list to look at.
I've got a first look at... No, hold on. No, it's a meeting. That's no good.
You've got a first look at a meeting.
No, I thought I had a first look at next week's patch notes, but it's not. It's just a meeting about patch notes.
Oh, FD says it happened near the start. Okay, well, I will catch up with the engineering tomorrow and find out what they're looking at. I know they have been looking into it, but I think they've been struggling with it a bit. So if it's not fixed now, we're good chance it won't be fixed for the release, but do know that we are looking into it.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that that wouldn't be treated as it's acceptable. So sometimes there'll be an issue that we're not happy with, and we'd rather fix it, but there is only a finite amount of time available. But in other cases, there are issues that come up that we just kind of go, no, that's not good enough. We need to fix that. So the texture problems are definitely in that second camp.
Right, so we're joining up with the branch line coming in from Meissen here, just at Coswick. Coswick is just round the corner. Someone asked, why is this train showing its destination as Coswick? Because I set it that, because someone asked me to.
Does the PIS inside the carriages, is that operational as well?
Yeah, the little displays are inside the screen. So actually they were showing Coswick as we walked through as well.
For the benefit of Donovan and the 57 people who've also asked, we'll preview the Brighton route as soon as we're ready to preview it. And that's about as close to an answer as you're going to get, unfortunately.
So that odd signal we just passed there is what's called a HL signal, which is the new type of signalling that's used on parts of this route. So you would have been familiar with the likes of KS signals and HL signals, HP signals. This is another type called HL, which is an older system. It has more aspects, but is fundamentally similar to what you're already familiar with. So we'll be doing a tutorial stream on what all the aspects mean. I mean, it's just more of the same, to be honest. More aspects telling you how fast to go. Yeah, get used to the different aspects and what they mean, and you'll do fine.
And how would one go about learning about those signal aspects?
Well, we're going to be doing a video on it, and in the meantime, before then, the only other way would be to read it up. I don't think we have anything else at the moment that you can look at.
Liam's asking if there is a manual already for this route.
I don't know what the situation is with manuals. I'll go and look into that. So yes, there's the PIS on the coaches.
And does it show current destination, or does it, because we're at the end here?
Oh, it always should show whatever's on here.
Right.
As your destination. So it's the same as what's on the front there or on the sides. Up doors. I think that's the end of this one. Kicked out of my seat. Rude.
Okay,
Right.
So not that impressive a run there, Matt, if I'm honest. I mean, your accuracy wasn't great. You tripped the PZB once and you were late.
I know, but I was on the phone while I was
somehow
driving.
you earned an achievement. Dearie me.
Well, it just said, yeah, you did a thing, basically, was that achievement. That was a participation award for specially designed for me.
Oh, you got a gold as well, apparently.
I
Which
got a gold as well.
to me says that's a little bit forgiving.
It is a bit.
We are a bit forgiving when it comes to golds, apart from on the ones where it's next to impossible to get it.
Yeah, there's some refinements needed there.
Do we have someone who actually looks after the kind of the gameplay side of things? So figuring out points, values, and gold stuff, and all of that kind of business.
Yes, there's a gameplay team that look after that stuff, but that some of the stuff we have for managing scores is not flexible enough at the moment, and that's why it tends to be a little bit of a blunt instrument in terms of what we can do with it. So again, we've got some thinking going on about how we can enhance the scoring system, make it better, and also make it, this is not doing what it was intended to do, which is to reward good driving and not reward bad driving. It's on the way, but it has room for improvement.
Series X we're on this evening, David, rather than the Xbox One. We're on the latest and greatest in the Xbox array. A couple of people have actually asked, are there plans to go back and fix the various Xbox-based sound issues that exist, particularly on German trains?
It's on lots of trains. It's actually a fundamental issue with Xbox's audio system called XMA. And yeah, you'd be saying, but no, other games don't have it. Actually, they don't use XMA. They use a different sound system from what we can tell. Because we've been talking with other game studios to find out. So we make the audio, it works fine on everything else, but on Xbox, some things just don't work properly. Looping doesn't quite work where it works normally. Why not? Because we spend a lot of time getting the loops just right, and then by the time they've made it onto an Xbox, they're not looping properly anymore. And the general sort of consensus that... Well, hang on, let me put PZB on. The general consensus that came out was that these studios have stopped using XMA, and they're using a different system, such as OGG, for that stuff. That is not a 5-minute change, and it would mean recooking all of the content. So that would be another 100 gig download. So, don't want to rule it out, but it needs some careful thought. And we need to do a lot of testing, because that will also change the memory profile. It will use more memory than XMA does. So, yeah, we think we have a handle on what we need to do. We need to do some testing, and we need to figure out the right way of implementing that. So, yeah, we're on it. Totally agree it's not acceptable. But the answer is not as simple as we had hoped.
Okay, so we ought to put that in as a flag for something to follow up on, because otherwise the only time they'll hear the next update on that is when it's asked in a live stream. Yeah, all right. Let's have a chat about that separately and see if it's something that can be worked on roadmap wise.
Yes, agreed.
Gazdesh is watching Italy, Bulgaria. Oh, there you go. Nice. I feel sorry for you. Liam saying, I saw a thread about the dispatcher from Tuesday. How do you want us to do the ticket?
Remind me, Liam. Lights on now. Yeah.
When does the 9th arrive? Well, that would be a week today.
It's after the 8th.
Yeah. So are we driving at dusky times here to show off more of the nice evening lighting that we've got going on?
Yeah, this one's going to be a bit more of a dusky drive, and then the freight one will do midday or mid-morning. But we'll do that one in September, so that it's a brighter run. So we'll get a run out of Dresden in the brighter weather daytime.
Why is there no destination on the train?
I noticed that myself. I was just looking around. There's supposed to be there it is, I think. I don't know why it's not showing a destination. Possibly because where this one is going. Let me stop and then I'll mess with it.
Okay.
A lot of these services, so their stopping point is off route. They're going to Perna or Schona or places like that. So, and at the moment they won't show up because of this issue I highlighted earlier on. So they'll probably just show nothing, or they'll show Dresden or something unhelpful.
Right. Why are there no other countries like Spain or Italy? Easily enough. We haven't got to them yet.
Okay, I'll find out what's going on with that. Something on the outside, but it's not showing up on the inside. Excellent.
Pegasus asks, are there any surprises coming after rush hour that we won't anticipate? I'm not going to tell you. Because then it won't be a surprise, will it? come on. We go through this from time to time, and people go, oh, tell me the secret thing you can't tell me about. And you kind of go, no, because then it wouldn't be a secret.
We've got traction interlock
You've
released.
got to turn on the destination display in order to get your destination functionality working.
Turn it on.
Yeah, I didn't make the thing. I don't know. I'm just telling you what the chat's telling me.
I'm going to have to go and read the book, obviously.
You really should.
Any breakthrough on the pixelated custom liveries? An engineer's been working on that for a while. Since release, actually, he's been working on that. He was making some headway. What book? Okay, fair enough, Thelonious. He was making some headway on it, so I need to get a catch-up. I'm having a catch-up with the engineering team on a number of different topics tomorrow.
Warrior asked, will the season ticket still be available after all 3 routes are out? And the answer is yes. Previously, I've said it will be on sale until at least the end of the year. However, it might not be on sale until at least the end of the year, but we will give as much notice as possible before that's changed. And we'll make that as clear to hear as possible. Things moving around as ever. Not necessarily, Red Leader. You know, it might not change, but it might. I've heard some rumours that it might move around. But if it does, then we'll make sure that we give you as much heads up as possible.
It's all good. It's all fine.
Will you guys ever add a finished route to this game? It's the same question as any route in any country or any particular route is possibly at some point, maybe, don't know, could happen. We've got no plans in the future. If it's not on the roadmap, it's not happening. What are the other ones we do? We'd love to, but it's quite complicated to do other countries. We'd have to do the ones that we think loads of people would be interested in. All of that kind of stuff and other answers beside. So would we ever do a finished route? Yes, we'd love to. Are we currently planning to do one? No. Jared, same answer, but replace Finnish with Australian.
Right, onto the doors.
Liam says, I thought the routes were meant to be secret. Well, they are. I haven't announced any. I've just announced some that we're not working on. That was quite a nice stop.
It was a terrible stop. What are you talking
in the chat there for that actually being a halfway decent stop.
That was a terrible stop. Came in on maximum brake. The end position was
Ben
fine.
says if it's not on the roadmap, it's been ticked off the bingo card. What am I missing? Because your bingo cards aren't that great, you know. They don't do the stuff that the sayings we use most often at all. The next Steam sale will be when it's on. And unfortunately, we don't announce sale dates before they happen. Can't think why.
It's an odd one. Yeah, all the physics on this have been redone at Jamco. It's so a lot of improvements were done for the BR112, and the team wanted to bring those improvements to the BR143. So hence it's got things like the removable reverser and other stuff in there. So it's sort of up to the same standard, possibly a bit beyond the BR112 because it's had additional physics work done to it. You liking the sounds, DB Spotter? Nice, thank you. Got another achievement. See?
Have you made use of the horn already? Because I don't get the sound at this end.
There you go. Horn.
Does the red 182 come with the route, or do you need rapid transit and the associated DLC?
Red 182 is the DLC for rapid transit. So you need the DLC and you need rapid transit, and then it will substitute in on some of the services. So someone asked.
Go on, saying. Go on, no, you go ahead. I can hold on to questions.
I saw someone asking about if you notice when I stopped there, the power indicator, which has got the red box around it at the moment because the throttle interlock, because the doors are open, doesn't show when I've got the brakes on. And that's because that is a power-based indicator. So dynamic brakes show up on there, and your throttle shows up on there, but air brakes don't. They're shown in the circles at the bottom. So that's why that's not showing up in there. That's not a bug, that's intentional.
A couple of kind of related questions. So Chief Longshin said that he bought the 101 after the last stream, and it's a great train. Just needs to find out what routes it can be used on. And then the follow-up from Rob is, do you envisage freeing up loco DLCs from their routes? So the 155 might suit this, for example.
We absolutely want to free up the dependency on a loco from its route. In fact, we're looking at plans for how we can achieve that. One of the things is that without the base route, you wouldn't have the tutorial for the loco. So we need to still make it to where if you purchase a loco, you can still find out how to drive it and get the basic tutorial rather than leaving you at sea. And then there's some technical things that need to be resolved for that. But the plan very much is to get that resolved. I can't give you a timescale on when that is, except that it is a goal for us to get that done.
That's on the big long list of things we want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Thelonious says, sounds like you need a test track route that will run any train.
There is more to it than just needing a test track route, but it's that kind of thing, yes. Think TS Academy, but not TS Academy, something like it.
And for those who don't know what TS Academy is, Matt, come on.
So in Train Simulator 1, in Train Simulator 2021, I think it is currently, there is an academy facility in there, which is a route which is included in everything, and that route is where all of the tutorials are placed. So if you want to learn about the basics of driving trains, that route came with a selection of trains painted in bright orange safety liveries, fake fictional thing, for TS Academy. And what it meant was that regardless of what you did, you could always do these. And there was 50 or 60 scenarios which all taught you all different aspects of what you need to do driving different trains. And it meant that you didn't need to have specific routes, specific trains. You could still do the full course, if you like. Whereas this makes use of the real locos in the things more often and on real routes, but you have to then own all of those different bits to make it work. So what's needed is some sort of compromise between the two. So Adam, who built TS Academy, is actually looking into that at the moment to see what's the right answer to that. So yeah, that's one of the things we're looking at. That's a relatively long-term thing, but it's something that we're actively starting on. Spoke to Adam about that yesterday, in fact.
Have we got some cab light action going on in here? It's starting to get a bit dingy in the cab. I don't think you even got the instrument lights on, have you?
No, I don't.
There you go. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not the most attractive instrument lights I've ever seen, but let's bang them on since it's night time.
Not sure where the cab light is. Oh, it's over here.
How do you press the CIFA separately here on the Xbox controller?
You can't. CIFA and piece of B acknowledge are all on the same button. So as I press B, it's B acknowledges the CIFA, and it's not acknowledging piece of B. Ooh, has this got? I know. So okay. One of the things that the train setup team have been looking at is to respond to the comments that that people have passed on, that they don't like the fact that every time you hit the acknowledge button on the controller, you get a piece of B acknowledge every time as well. And they've been trying to think, can they get a bit smarter? Because we can't remap the controls now for that stuff. That would break too many things. So they're making it so that it's context sensitive. So let's find out if and when we get another PZB, because I have just been using the B button to acknowledge that. But at the moment, the B button's not pressing the PZB at all. It's just pressing CIFA, which suggests it's actually got the context sensitivity in it. Let me check that, and I'll find out from the team if that's actually been made. But the idea, that would then mean that you don't need a separate button. It will just pick the right button, and you don't get the annoying PZB beep or words every time you acknowledge CIFA, which I get is a pain.
I've got two people repeating the same question, and I very much get the sense that if we don't ask the question, it's going to be repeated ad infinitum until both people get banned. So, could we use the technology that sits behind reflective signs and stick those on the needles on these instruments, or is that an entirely different bag of worms?
That's a different thing. The team already have a way to make the needles stand out. It's been done on other things. Where you see that not done, report that as a bug, because that's something that we know how to make that work. If you look, for example, on the Leeds-Manchester route, for example, the team went to great lengths to get the needles lit up correctly according to all the night videos we found on that stuff. So it's definitely a possible. Yeah, hold us to that standard. It should work. If it doesn't, tell us. Right, coming into Dresden Chicago now. I'm not too far from Dresden.
Derek, I don't understand the question. Derek says, why do you almost always do routes? And I don't really understand. Could you have another swing at the question? I'm quite happy to answer it, but have another go at it. And apparently the cab was doing a texture thing just then.
Was it? Okay. I'll add it to my list to talk to the team about tomorrow. Get an update.
And once we're done on this one, could we have a quick skim through journey mode before you move on to our final frontier?
Right, Dresden Pieschen.
I've sent a couple of questions on this one. What's the deal with the liveries being pixelated on PS4?
So the way that liveries work is they're essentially a layer plastered over the top of it, and for some reason on, I think it's just PlayStation, they're being downscaled and then stretched to fit. So instead of having a nice, I don't know what it is, but let's say it's a 2K by 2K texture, it gets crunched down to something really small and then stretched back out to 2K or 2K and put on it. It's something that Unreal is doing. I don't know why. Or I don't know why. I know the engineers were looking into it. What they were looking at to see is if, one of their angles was, has it got different settings and things like that. So that's one of the angles they're trying to look at on that. And again, that was, they found a couple of settings that were different compared to the normal liveries, and so they were trying to find out if they actually were making a difference or not. So, but yeah, it's crunching the texture for some reason.
Okay, so who's looking at that then? Because that's a recent addition.
The crunch texture on the liveries, yeah, that's a 426 thing, and yeah, one of the engineering team has been looking at that.
Okay, Derek's back. Your question was, why do you almost always do German and American routes? We don't. We almost always do German, American, British routes, and then occasionally we do routes that aren't from those countries, but only occasionally. And we do those three routes, those three countries primarily, because we've done those three countries historically, and therefore we've got all of the learnings necessary to be able to build those routes in a compelling fashion. Plus, they're the most popular ones.
Yeah.
When we've explored other countries, they've been less popular, and that's not necessarily in Train Sim World. That also covers Train Simulator as well. So, given that we only have finite resources, we have to use a common phrase: fish where the fish are. Only other countries that speak French, says Thelonious. One might even go so far as to say that was a conspiracy. Yes, because we've done Canada, Switzerland, and France. Haiti DLC coming up.
Oh, I was supposed to have acknowledged that, wasn't I? That was a 70. Oh! Again, proving that PZB is working in this train, having proved it worked in the previous one.
Darko #1, there's no apology required. If we goof, we expect people to be upset. And how frustrated and annoyed you are is, well, I mean, that's up to you as to how frustrated and annoyed you get. But we don't expect people to not be frustrated / annoyed if there is an error made. So we're fairly certain we've got all of the PlayStation distribution fixes out now. If you're still having trouble, please get in touch with support. But no, there's no apology necessary. You know, when mistakes are made, it's not reasonable for us to expect everyone to go, oh, okay, then I'll just sit here quietly, shall I? Because no, that's not the way of the world at all. Liam, yes, this route, every platform gets all layers, is what we're hearing from QA at the moment. There are no performance issues, particularly on other platforms.
Yeah, I'm showing how to reset the train. Yeah, as BR1 Serpent says, thanks BR1 Serpent, spot on. I'm glad you spotted it. Got an IC train coming this way.
Have they not got the train lights on? Looked like the
I didn't see that.
It was jolly dark.
It was jolly dark, okay.
Deadly Diddley asks, how is graffiti covered by copyright? Because it's considered a piece of artwork.
It might be an undesirable piece of artwork. It's still a piece of artwork.
That's in the eye of the beholder, dear boy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But even so, it is a piece of artwork that is owned in theory, or certainly in legal theory, it is owned, and therefore we don't use copyright material where we have not gained permission from the copyright holder to make use of it.
Stuck at 40 kilometres an hour at the moment because I'm in. Oh no, I could probably accelerate now, but it's only 300 metres away. If I accelerate now, I'm never going to stop. Knowing me.
European train spotting. We'll talk freight in a couple of minutes because we're going to do a bit of freight, aren't we, mate?
Mm-hmm. We are indeed. That's what we're doing next after we've looked at Journey.
Tintin asks, how many routes did DTG have in the pipeline that you know already will be made? E.g., is a full year ahead already known? Well, I'm not going to put a number on it, but we do have a plan that rolls out until about March at the moment, and then some speculative stuff that goes on beyond that. But that plan and the routes that are on it is still in discussion at the moment, and the order that those routes come out and you know, loco add-ons as well, that's going all over the place. So until that settles down a little bit, we won't know the exact kind of final running of things.
Get out of my way. Thank you. I need to check my ticket.
Daddy Dilly said, does that mean we can't do our own on-rail cars in the livery editor? I don't see why not.
I can do what you like in the editor.
If you want to do a graffiti-style livery design, then help yourself. Seba asks, is there any release date? Yes, it's next Thursday. 9th of September.
Right, come around to Dresden Neustadt now. The Gravy P one always stands out for me in the graffiti. A lot of these graffitis are actually names from. In fact, Gray is the same. That one that says Gray. He's our lead environment artist. Coming into the big Dresden Neustadt now. More modern lighting in this area.
Arrigo, we showed off the routes map right at the start of the stream. If you want to go and scrutinise it there, you are more than welcome to do so. Are we going to go all the way to Dresden today? Because
yes.
We skipped it on Tuesday.
Well, we started in Dresden on Tuesday, so we just didn't go back to it. I think the stream had already got to 2 hours, and full service brake stops. That's how you do it. That's how the professionals
do it. That's
how
I do it.
That's how I do it.
Drive it like you're barely in control of it. That's how I do it. Is that building up ahead on fire?
No, it's like a cooling tower, I think.
It does not appear to be doing the best of jobs.
Well, you see when we get up to it, there's a big chimney behind it. That's not the building emitting smoke.
Are we expecting these stations to be as busy as Boston?
Probably not. Boston South was epically busy, and the services tend to sort of spread out a little bit more on this one. So you'll pass traffic, but where Boston South was epically busy in one place, you should see more traffic over more of the route, because Boston got quite quiet by the time you got to Providence, whereas this should be a little bit more evenly balanced.
So is that not the opposite of what we were intending? Because this is a rush hour route.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It's not ideal. So one of the things I'm doing at the moment is reviewing the timetable implementation to see if actually it's what was intended. If it's not right, we will look at making changes.
Everybody likes this. European Transport. If you hold the questions, we'll be doing freight shortly. Would we consider bringing the old branches back in a future patch? There are no old branches. These would be new branches. Nothing has been removed from the development of this route. That's the important takeaway, is that at no point was work done and then stopped. It was a case of that was what we originally planned to do, but the plan changes as the scope gets firmed up. So we get still that people are disappointed that they're not present. So it wouldn't be re-adding anything. It would be, would we add for the first time extra branches on this route? And that's the extension question. is, are we going to look to do route extensions in the future? And at the moment, it's something where we've got technological problems to overcome before we even consider it. And then it needs to be something that's handled very delicately.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's quite a lot of work for not necessarily any reward for that work.
Someone asked about AI freight.
Why does the Long Island Railroad route not have as many buildings and industry? Because we get better at building this stuff over time. Long Island Railroad's a couple of years old now.
Mm. Two coming in. Wait for it to let me have the throttle. Doors are all closed. That's better. Dresden Freiburger Strasse is next, and then Dresden. It's the 185.5 for the freight trains.
Flying Pats, if you watched the stream earlier on, we talked about texture problems earlier on. They are still being investigated. Will the preservation update roll out with the Dresden DLC? Which preservation update are you referring to?
Yeah, because the previous route had the massive preservation update in it with all the work they've been doing.
Joshua says, have you tried doing a bigger route? Well, you know the answer to that already. And charging more because obviously the additional working time. See if there is a market. No, that's not necessarily what. That's not the mindset we operate in. What we have is a tried and tested system that works quite well for us. So we stick with that, and then once in a while we dabble into other bits and pieces to see what's going on. Now, in terms of tying up resources for longer to make a longer route, that's quite a hefty gamble. Because, I mean, firstly, if we were to offer any, it doesn't matter how long the route was, if we were to try and charge more for it, that would not be a popular decision, regardless of the enthusiasm some people may have for, oh no, I would pay £500 for a route that was 50 centimetres longer. Kind of go, yeah, but would you though? So there's a little bit of risk aversion going on in there. Plus, we know what works, and it's what works in a gameplay sense, and in a is this a rewarding enough experience to justify being called its own route?
That's right. There's a request to see something, and I've no idea what that is. The World Trade Center. So I'm just looking around, and if it's there, then you'll have seen it, and if not, you can say something. Right, let's go. Next stop is Dresden Hauptbahnhof.
HK asks, are there any plans for announcements on the train? There are no plans for announcements on the train. There are no plans for announcements on the station. There are no plans for announcements of any kind. We know that people would like them. We'd like to add them, but there's no plan to introduce them at the moment.
I see service heading out.
It's a bit dark in that train.
It is, but then that's got tinted windows, so it does look dark on the outside, that one.
Okay, but it's still a bit dark in that train.
Probably. We're doing the next one in the daytime, Carlo. So we're approaching Dresden now on one of the high-level platforms. One of the other unique things that you see on this route is that it's got slightly different technical implementation of how the signals determine what speed they're going to show you. So normally the speeds come up for certain routes, for example, whereas what these ones do, particularly in this area here between here and Dresden Neustadt, is that they will show you, for example, a 5 just because the next signal is yellow. To get you slowed down in advance, which is not what normally you get a 5 because it's going on a route which is slower, so which means that if there wasn't a yellow in front of you, you wouldn't get that 5, and that's implemented on here as well. We'll see that actually the freight service I'm about to run has got a little bit of following going on out of Dresden, so you'll see some of those adverse aspects.
Bob's saying that is all the PS4 stuff sorted? We believe so. We believe that all the necessary buttons have been pressed. I think maybe the 186 is still missing for some people, but it depends on what country you're in. There's a thread running on the Dovetail forums that has the latest information. But I'm pretty certain that we expected everything to be fixed, but there may be a couple of outliers that still need to be resolved. Do we have any plans for TSW2 VR? Not at the current time.
It always does so well in the surveys.
No, it doesn't. It always finishes bottom in the surveys, and you know it. You might want VR, but
finishes top in my survey.
Nah.
Right. So that was that journey you wanted to see next. Right, it's down to Saxony. Right, so we've taken a different approach for doing Journey on this route, so we appreciate your feedback on whether you like it or not, or what your feedback is generally, what you'd like to see in Journeys. This one is lots of chapters. So there's 11 chapters. Normally it'd be 3 or 4. So there's 11 chapters, and in each one there's a smaller number of things. So there's generally something like 4 or so. There's 3 in that one, 3 in that one, 4. So there's 3 or 4 in each one. The idea is to allow you to feel the progression of going through the chapters more. Now, there's actually more in here than there probably would be anyway, but the idea is to theme things more so that each of these is, so for example, the basics is your initial tutorials and a quick run. Then we do a run using the train, so there's a whole chapter about using that train. Double-edged is then the 143 and doing a run up and down. Peak time is bringing in one of the scenarios and doing more with either of those two trains. Mixed bag again is mixing it up and giving you're not quite sure what you're going to get. Talented brings in the talent. Multi-talented is more stuff with the talent. Regional Express, you're going to be doing less stopping, faster running on the Regional Express ones. Master of all. At this point, you should be good at driving all of the trains. So I think that this one they hit you with everything. And then the driver in the quote storyline here wants a change of pace and is now working for MRCE and learns to drive the 185.5. Does some work, learns to drive the shunter, and then finally spends some time actually doing some freight tasks on the route and some shunting tasks on the route. So the idea is to give a lot more variety, weave it into a little bit more of a sense of progression through it, and try and be a little, because it's always been a little bit throw a bunch of stuff into a box previously in the journey chapters. So we try to actually make it a little bit more of a progression. So I'd be interested to see what you think, how you get on with it, what what you think about that. I really like it, but I want to know what you think.
Journey mode, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is basically it's a curated set of services and bits of tutorial and bits of scenario, but put into an order that kind of makes sense within the overall setting of the chapter that you're in. So it's kind of a curated way to play, and if you prefer to kind of have, oh, I don't know what to do next, then journey mode is quite a good way of doing that because it will tell you what to do next. So if you only play timetable mode, then there's not going to be many surprises in there for you, but it might be useful in terms of breaking up the order in which you play things.
Yeah, it's something else to try. Right, so I'm getting the safety systems turned on so that we're ready to go. Right, so something I also want to introduce you to this, and I just think everything has pretty much got this on there, is the brake selector switch. Now, I showed you this on the 146.2 and the Dostos last on Tuesday, so I wanted to show you it in the context of freight this time, which is where it's perhaps more useful. So our train, if we pause here, I should probably sit in the seat so it knows what I'm doing. So our train is 779 tonnes, and I am reliably informed that the brake mode that you set the train to, I'll explain what this does in a minute, is I think P for when you are below 600 tonnes. If you're above 850 tonnes, it's G, and if you're between the two, which is where we are, then the front 5 wagons and the loco go into mode G. So we're going to do that for reasons. So I'm going to put it in mode G and climb down. I think I've interpreted that correctly. If not, Ed will shout at me later. Note the glorious container wagons, and then pop this over into mode G, and we can do that in any of the wagons. In addition, you've also got the distributor cutoff and the release valve, which is this one over here. What you can do here, this is if you want to do a little bit of role play and you want to say this wagon's got dead brakes, I need to disable its brakes in the consist, then what you would do is cut out its brakes. You would pull the release valve. Now the brakes on this is now released, and when you apply the brakes on the train, they won't apply on this wagon. So you'll find if you do that on a few wagons, you've got a bit less braking power to play with. So let's put this one.
Do the different braking settings, so passenger versus freight, does it actually have make a difference in a physics sense?
Yes. So these settings I'm doing at the moment, where I'm switching from P to G, are what they're doing is, it's what they're actually doing is they're changing the timings. If you've got a heavy train, what you don't want is for the loco to apply its brakes nice and quickly. Bearing in mind that on a train like this, the brakes will not apply evenly. They'll apply at the front, and the brake, as the air pressure goes up down the train, they will apply gradually down the train. Now, if you've got a heavy train, what that means is that your loco is going to be applying brakes and taking the force of the entire train behind it initially, and all it'll do is cause you to wheel slip. And you'll start sliding. And it gives you just really bad control over a heavy train. Now, by switching it into slow braking mode, which is G, what you do is it slows down the whole braking system so that it raises and lowers the brake pipe at a slower speed, which gives you much more even braking. So the loco will be applying less brakes, but then it will be applying them in line with what the rest of the train should be doing. So essentially, you don't have to do it. You can leave it the way it is if you want to, or you can experiment with the P and the G and the R switch, and you can optimize it, and you'll see that the brakes apply and release at different rates depending on what you're doing there.
So, is this something that we teach people how to do in the tutorials, in the manual, or is this something that players will learn by osmosis?
It's not covered. This is a super advanced feature that isn't covered in anything at all, so we show it off in streams like this, explain it, answer it, questions for people, and we still need to figure out the right way of how you actually teach these complicated subjects in a way that makes sense.
On which note, we had a discussion on this very topic earlier today, whereby if a train or a route incorporates a feature of any kind, we should be communicating that in the documentation that comes with it.
Yeah, totally. Very much so.
Doesn't matter whether it's advanced, if it's basic, or if it's entirely unrelated, we should be documenting it.
Right. So we're just
All right,
departing Dresden.
where are we going?
We just departed Dresden's from one of these the high-level platforms, and we are heading our way west. This train is on its way to via Riesa. This train stops at Riesa from our perspective, and we'll see how far we get before the end of the stream. So we go back. Got an ICE. I've obviously held up the works by messing with the brake settings. Good on me.
Well, that makes you a true hero.
It does.
Ziva.
Why are there only 28 freight services? It seems like quite a low number given the breadth and size and the timetable in the corridor.
Yeah, it is a busy freight corridor, and again, that's one of the things that aspects that I'm going to be reviewing because I've been looking at. It does feel a little quiet compared to what we wanted for our rush hour experience, and so I'm looking at all sorts of things like are enough of the passenger trains in, are all the passenger trains in, bluntly, and are the are all the freight trains in, and from what I can tell, it's only got about 25% of the freight trains that should be in here because this is a phenomenally busy freight route. So these are all things that we're going to be looking at for an update to bulk that stuff up.
Are there any AI only freight services? So AI driven services?
Don't think so. I think all the freight services are drivable.
Also, someone earlier on said, would it be possible to add some freight services that go in the evening or at night? Given that they exist for reals,
yes.
and it will allow the freight fans to soak up some darkness.
Yep, there are freight services morning, night, in the darkness. Yes. I was tempted to do another one. I thought everyone's probably had enough of dark. We should probably show the route in the daylight. So that's why we're running this one in the daylight. I find myself running this route in the dark more often than not these days.
Ziva.
We've also got the new licensed branded wagons now, which is good to finally see appearing more and more. Got the one wagons. That was the latest operator that came on board with Train Sim World. Yes, pink.
Matthew, you're still missing stuff on PS4. Keep an eye on the thread on the forum, and that will have the latest information. We think it's limited to certain regions, but we're still looking into it. Which platform will our release day stream be on? Who's doing the stream on release day?
No idea. Have a look in the schedule. Oh, got an IC service over there that I'm probably holding up. I probably left it in the wrong freight mode, actually. No, we're in 70, so we're in M. Which probably isn't too far wrong for a 700-ton freight.
Ziva.
So yeah, it looks like the context-sensitive PZB and CIFA is in here. The 143, I noticed that it only did the PZB when it needed to do the PZB, and it did CIFA all the other time. So which means your CIFAs will now not have PZB interference, which is glorious.
Flying Pat says, is there a chance of an editor or possibility to modify or add our own services to a timetable? So when we're done, we've talked about a little bit about kind of Scenario Planner 2. Is that the kind of functionality that we'd consider there, where you can actually go and edit an existing timetable?
You wouldn't be able to edit a timetable because of the way that timetables work. We have to do full simulation runs to get all the data for it. But having a time, one of the things that we are investigating, for example, is can you just say, I want the timetable plus my service here, spawn in the train and go, and then you at least get the benefit of all the background traffic and not having to put all that in, and you're just then the extra service that's running along the line. That's one of the things that we're experimenting with, seeing whether we can do. Again, not guaranteeing that will turn up, but it would be very cool, because it would mean you wouldn't have to author any AI. It was always something we talked about previously, about basically wanting to add specials and customs to the normal run-of-the-mill daily timetable.
Sure. Any plans on players being able to transfer their progress over from PS4 to PS5, for example?
I've not had any updates on that from the team. Since I'm talking to them tomorrow, I will add that to my list.
This is a solid, compelling piece of camera action. It was up until very recently.
I do like these SSGGMRSS wagons. I like saying that as well.
Will the sensitive acknowledgements be on all routes once it's introduced?
No, it's a per loco.
That has to be added on a route by route basis.
It's a per loco piece of scripting that needs to be done, and the team have been experimenting with making it work. So this is its debut essentially, and if it works well with everybody, then we can teach the preserve crew how to do it, and it will be using it going forwards. Because this is quite easy. Now it's been done once, it's easy enough to then put it in on new stock, and it should be relatively easy to retrofit, because it's just essentially a decision point rather than anything complicated. It's just which controller what needs to be acknowledged right now, activate it then.
So where's the line then between systems like that can be included on a kind of global basis, and ones that are always going to be bespoke to the train?
Well, that one's bespoke to the train.
Well, yeah, I know that, you just said that, but
yeah.
Where's the line in terms of functionality? Because it seems like, there's quite a lot of things that we do across multiple different types of trains, and yet they are only available on that particular train rather than being a core piece of functionality.
So when we put things into core, we then have a problem that we can't change it without incurring a big retest cost. So let's say, for example, 5 locos use a feature, and we realise that we want to extend the feature or fix a problem with the feature. Once we do that, we would then have to retest all of those things, and anything that's knocked on from that, anywhere it can substitute, that would all then need to be considered in terms of potential impact. Whereas if it's local to the train, you've just got one thing to look at, which generally means that it's more likely to be a fix that gets done, and then you can go back and you can do those trains as you get time to then make sure you can test it properly. Otherwise, you end up in a situation that it's such a big job to do this small change, it just never gets done. And I don't.
So this is kind of a risk aversion thing, and even though it means you end up carrying out the same piece of work in this example 5 times, it's actually more efficient to do it that way.
It means that the work gets done, because you can otherwise you end up with a big plug in the pipeline versus a bunch of little plugs in the pipeline essentially. So you can get those through the system, get them tested, and get them out. I mean, now we are looking at changing some of that methodology, so that some of this stuff, like some of the characters, for example, all the character stuff here in Rush Hour is now in core. And as we go through the preserved collection routes, and we upgrade them to use the Rush Hour characters, that means all those routes will now be using core for those characters, and any changes to core characters will then happen across all routes immediately. That'll have an impact on some things, but we think that's a relatively safe one. But it has the benefit then that everything benefits from those changes immediately. So we are trying to. We've possibly been overcautious in some cases, but we are going to look at what we can do as we go forward. But that's historically why it would be this way.
No, Chief Longshin, no, that's exactly what Matt was just describing. No, you can't have it, supersede and update the others, because they would have to also be retested. And then anything that potentially knocks on from that would also have to be retested, which means that a relatively straightforward testing task turns into a monster, which means that when you're considering adding or extending a feature of that kind, rather than it being something that you can test in a relatively straightforward fashion and release, but just for one loco, you would have to do for an enormous chunk of the game. And because that's a big investment of testing resources, means that update just probably wouldn't happen. Cabepe, you are still getting crashes on Steam. Are fixes coming? Yes. If it's crashing at the end of the on close down, so if you're getting an Unreal Engine crash on close down, that is related to Dovetail Live. And we're investigating exactly what the cause is of that. We are only further along on the kind of mid-game Unreal Engine wobbles. On Steam particularly.
Oh, I just saw the texture drop there as well. So yes. Again, they're looking through the crashes to see what they can find. The mid-game ones are a little bit more difficult to find because they're not consistent. So the challenge there is getting a solid repro of it, an environment that causes an issue. So if you're getting mid-game crashes that are unrelated to player mods and changes to INI files and so forth, so anywhere you've done any customizations, if you're getting crashes, take all that stuff out, and then if you're still getting the crashes, make sure that you drop us all the crash dumps and so forth, so that'll help us a lot in trying to investigate the issue. The mid-game crashes are more difficult to look into, but yes, they are being looked into at the moment. Fortunately, I don't think they're happening anywhere near as much as some of the other ones that we're being looked into. Someone's actually just called out the ballast types as well, so that's a really excellent shout. So one of the things that's been improved for this route, and again it's a technique that's now available going forwards, is we can now change the colour of the ballast smoothly. So we've always been able to run different ballasts, but what would happen is that at the changeover point, they would be a hard edge, which looks terrible. So Southeastern High Speed, for example, should have had two different ballasts, and we did try that, and we ended up with just this hard edge, and at that point it just looked awful. But what we can do now is we can smoothly blend between the two ballasts, which looks much, much better. And you'll see this route actually changes its ballast type colour actually quite frequently as you go down the line, representing areas where they've regenerated, we put new track down, reballasted it. You can see it's got cleaner ballast.
Yeah. Dennis says, do you plan to build a route that will take 2 to 3 hours? Yes, you've already got it. It's sandpatch grade. Trundle along sandpatch grade, that'll take you a couple of hours. It's a slightly glib response, obviously. But no, route length is something we discuss regularly, and the sweet spot is around what we're doing right now. But as we become more efficient at building environments and building stations, then the opportunity to extend out the length of routes opens up to us.
Yeah.
Why are the Dresden stations so empty? This is supposed to be rush hour. The main selling point of this was greater traffic and hustle and bustle. Which is a perfectly fair question. Now, isn't there a relationship between the train you're driving and the number of passengers that appear on the platform? So if you're driving a freight train like this and you're not due to stop, then no passengers will turn up.
Yeah, so there's a number of factors controlling it. First of all, it's 9:45, which means that the passenger spawn rate curves are heading downwards rapidly at this point, so we'll be spawning less passengers on the platforms. Then passengers spawn when there's a train to get on. I think they're looking about 5 minutes ahead, so trains arriving within 5 minutes. Now, I'm not going to be counted in any of those numbers because I'm not stopping or picking up passengers any of these stations, so I don't count essentially. So if there's a train on the other platform, which is coming in the other train in the other direction, for example, then that will you might see passengers waiting for that train. If there's no train coming, then there won't be. And another example of that would be if I'm following a passenger train, clearly that's going to be hoovering up all the passengers, and there won't be more showing behind, unless maybe there's a freight train hugging close to me, in which case you might see passengers on the platform which are waiting for the train that's coming behind me.
Crewfab says, thanks for answering it. Sorry for taking the mickey out of your question, Crewfab. It was a perfectly reasonable question, but you actually meant the lack of trains. We haven't seen a lot of services coming in the opposite direction.
No, and so I mentioned this a couple of times previously. We are looking at the timetable. It's not as busy as we wanted it to be, and we're trying to work out where it isn't, because it was all the original research was based on the full timetable, but that doesn't seem to be what's actually turning up in the game, so I'm trying to find out why that is. This will not change before release, but we do want to try and fix it as an update as soon as possible afterwards, because but it looks like we've only got 25% of the freight from the line, to be honest. Looking at sort of YouTube videos of how many freight you'd see in there, the route is lacking in freight. And from a glance I did at passenger services, for example, S1 seems a little bit light. Now we're on the avoiding line, so actually a lot of the AI traffic is going to be on the main line. So we're on the avoiding line here at the moment, whereas a lot of the passenger traffic, all your stopping traffic is over here. There are no stations on this line. So it's really express services, the intercity express and freight that use this. So what happens is you get to this avoiding section and you cut the number of trains in two, basically. So that makes it a bit quieter. But the point of this avoiding line actually is for it to be quite quiet. You're supposed to be able to go at a decent speed, of course I'm not, and get ahead of the slow trains running on the other line. But it is low in numbers, and it's something we need to look at.
When are we set here? I must have missed this on Tuesday because this is one of our obvious questions. What year are we set in? So what timetable kind of template are we going for?
Modern, the timetable is based on current. Oops, hello, no, I'm going too fast.
So are there any passenger services that use the avoiding line?
Intercity and Intercity Express. Oh, I didn't slow down fast enough, and now it's all upset. Shouting at me. You get what's coming to you. You let go. It's all good. Once the brakes actually come off. Anytime. What was the question again? Sorry.
No, you answered it. It was passenger services using this line.
Yes, so the non-stop trains will use this one, whereas the effectively white trains use this line and the red trains use the other line. In simple terms.
Exploring and Adventures asks, do we know when Brighton Main Line is coming? Yes, we do. Thanks for asking. Chief Longshin, that's a very fair question. When you say, and I was actually going to pick you up on this, Matt, when you say this is something we need to look at, does that mean that a change is coming? Does it mean a change isn't coming? And or can we expect some kind of update on is there going to be something done about it?
So we'll give you an update on the findings and what that means, and the intention would be if there is an update, then try and bring that out around the Brighton release schedule time. Would be when we'd be looking at bringing that work to a close and getting it out. So it's this is not meeting the rush hour specs. Something needs to be done about it, so it needs to be looked at. So we'll give you an update on the upcoming streams about what that actually means. But I've already been talking about this with the team and prepping them that they will be doing some more work on this timetable.
Right. BT asks, is the 313 still in production? Have a quick look on the roadmap. Any news from the third party? Any ask? We do roadmap streams for a reason, people. Just because we're here, you don't get to ask anything and everything. Although I have a tendency to answer just about anything. Let's try and stay focused. Let's try and stay focused on the task at hand. Are we going to be there will be an update prior to the release of this route next week. The patch notes, I think, are well, I've been invited to a meeting tomorrow to discuss the patch notes, so I'm assuming there'll be some. Beyond that, got no details at the current time. So that's in relationship, but we're going to see some Boston updates next week. Are you aware of any Boston updates that are pending?
Potentially, but I don't know if they're actually in the build yet. Because this is quite close release to the last one, we don't know what the test cycle is, where it's at. So it's what's being tested and ready for release. This is the where it crosses over. So some of the services in reality would head up this way, and this is where we cross off that line and continue west, directing back towards Riesa.
Are there alternative freight consists available with different wagon setups?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the route comes with Habins, the general purpose wagons. It comes with Zacken's tanker wagons. You use the Zacken's tanker wagons in the shunting services with the 363. You've got the containers I'm hauling, and the fourth one, I can't remember what it is. Yes, there's a fourth one. There's no new wagons in this pack. These are based on existing wagons, although they've all had their physics completely redone. As I said, all the physics on these stock has been redone, so they behave differently and they should be a lot more. Car haulers, the Lear's wagons, that's the ones. Thank you very much. So they're in there as well. And all the wagons have got the GPR functionality for the brake mode. That's standard across all of this stock now. And we're going to try and do that as standard on all future stock where it's applicable.
Someone said a moment ago that a bit of catenary was missing. In the event that it was, I didn't see one way or the other, but let's take it at face value. If there is a bit of wonky overhead line going on, or it's missing entirely, is that a rendering problem, or is that something that hasn't been placed in originally by the team?
So we have... it might be because it wasn't placed by the team and was missed somehow, but there are some issues with our overhead line tool. I mean, functionally it's too simplistic. I mean, everyone would agree with me. It's not delivering the full overhead line experience. But also there are a couple of bugs in there. What the team have been telling the engineering team about, where you place a bit of catenary and you find that a random bit somewhere else has gone, and that we think that's where some of this missing catenary is coming from. So that's on the engineering team's hit list now, to go and squash that bug, because that's getting super annoying. The team think that they've done the job, and then obviously we go a previous stream like this, or QA look at it, and they start raising bugs about missing QA. Now there has been a missing catenary. So the team have gone through and fixed a bunch of the stuff that was missing from the previous stream, so it should be improved. And again, if we've find any more, do shout, and we'll add it to the list.
It's not something daft like if there's a maximum piece of overhead wiring count that can be placed, and if you go one over, it will remove it from somewhere else.
I don't know. Could be.
Okay.
I don't know what the bug is, so
no. You said that. I was purely speculating.
Yeah, anything. It could be anything. Uber Craig, that's another one of our art team.
So are there substitution freight locos that can be used here as well?
So at the moment, I don't think anything substitutes for the freight other than custom liveries. And when we review the timetable, I'm going to get the team to look at allowing the things like the BR155, which is a bit of a miss. It's an East German loco and it's not working on an East German route. That's not good. So we're going to look at getting some of the extra freight stock because of the MERC BR182 as well. So we're going to look at trying to get some of that stuff working across. So what we'll do is we'll give an update on what we've achieved and what to expect. But all I would say is, for the time being, what you're seeing here is the timetable that it will be shipping.
Is this the bypass section? Is this considered to be high speed?
It is. We're about to come off it though, and we're looks like we've been held up. So it's not. Sorry, no, it's not high speed in the traditional sense, because then we'd have LZB and be doing faster than 160 kilometres an hour. If you're running an ICE train along this route, then you'd be flying along at 160 kilometres an hour, but not stopping. So let's call it an express line rather than a high speed line. But it's used for bypassing the. It's high speed insofar as there's three passenger stops on the other line, and this is. This you get none, so you just get to fly past those trains rather than being held up, which is what used to happen.
Is this pattern of releasing beta quality routes and then doing a post-release patch something that we can expect going forward? Depends what you define as beta quality. We release routes when we believe they're about ready to release. Sometimes they'll release with bits and pieces that we want to polish up still in there, and sometimes they'll be considered good to go. So Gareth, you've been playing long enough, so you kind of know what to expect from us, and there's nothing scheduled in terms of any radical changes to the way that we do things. All we hope is that, anytime we put something out, that you get a great deal of fun from it. If you're not getting a great deal of fun from it, and that fun only turns up later on after we've done a bit more work, then wait until later on and pick it up after we've done a bit more work. Or not at all. Obviously, your choice. Blurry textures is something ready to release then? Oh, that's a fair point. What was the issue with the blurry textures?
We don't know. That's what's in our investigations. The blurry textures, I'm assuming you mean whether the cab is de-resing sometimes. So that's one of the things that is on the engineering team. They are looking at the moment to try and find out what's going on. It only happens on the Xbox, so it's unique and fun to that platform. So,
and was that something that we didn't spot in QA, or we did spot it in QA and thought, well, okay, we'll have that fixed relatively quickly?
I don't recall seeing it come up in QA, no. So I don't know why that is. So that we're going to find out why that is. Was it spotted and not raised? Was it spotted, raised, and not appreciated for as bad as it actually is, or was it missed? And if it's missed, then we'll find out why.
I would have said that was quite a tricky one to miss.
Oh, totally.
If you're playing on Xbox, you've seen it. Uh, 350 services over 24 hours means one train every 4 minutes on average. Didn't see any AI for the last 10 minutes or so. Why is that? Probably because we were on the bypass.
A, we're on the bypass, and B, it's not an evenly spread train. We're in a quieter period now. We're our post-rush hour, which means that there will necessarily be fewer trains at this point. So you'll get more dense services but during the rush hour period and less dense outside of the rush hour period.
Didn't Rivet have that issue on the controls with Isle of Wight with blurred textures? That was a different issue. That was a level of detail loading issue rather than whatever's happening here, which is something somewhere's doing the hokey cokey in terms of chucking out those textures. Will we only ever see freight, ICE, and IC on bypass?
I don't think anything else runs on it.
Right.
What would you like to see on it? 500 hertz magnet, and I was doing more than 25 kilometers an hour. So yes, 500 hertz magnets tested and working. It's probably getting a bit old now, isn't it?
Have you broken it again?
No, I was just testing it.
Uh-huh.
I was, honest.
You know they're drinking every time you break PZB in the Discord, right?
I know, I can tell, because the chat's getting worse every time I do that. See, ECM2 believes me. There's no sarcasm in what she's saying there at all.
Yes.
E-braking on a freight train. Takes a while to pump it back up.
Who's doing the next PZB tutorial? Very good. That's quite right. That is there. The great professor, educator of all things PZB, and that's how many have you done this evening?
3 for 3. 4? 3 for 3. 1 in each scenario tonight. We've done that. Notice by saying we, I'm including you in that as well, just to see if I can't get away with it a bit more.
Don't include me. I'm just a mouthpiece. Any news on Mastery Overlays fix for PS5? I think that there's quite a lot wobbling as far as Dovetail Live is concerned, because, you know, websites are pretty tricky stuff. Yeah, I mean, we've got several Dovetail Live bits and pieces that need investigation. I think I saw someone saying that it was not possible at the moment to upload railfan shots consistently. So we know that there are some inconsistencies, and those are being investigated. Are we getting chemical wagons for the chemical works?
Zacken's wagons, yeah. For this factory, actually, over here on the left. Not quite sure why we've been held up here. Oh, possibly him. There's a regional train in front of us.
Matt throwing Sam under the bus. That's just mean. That's fair. That's Matt giving as good as he gets, and that's perfectly reasonable. Yeah, Chief Longshin, that's a roadmap question. Try it on the roadmap where we can talk a little more freely and easily on a variety of subjects.
Yeah, so this is the chemical plant where you'll be doing shunting with 363 and the Zacken's wagons.
Right.
And the 363 does mainline runs.
363 rather than the 204. I know the 204 is not necessarily native, but it would be a nice one to be able to sub in.
So there's an issue with the way the 204 has been set up that's preventing us from subbing it in at the moment. So we're talking to Rivet about what they need to do to update the 204 so that it's got the right tags that will allow it to sub in. That's the only thing stopping it from subbing in. So yeah, we need to have that conversation and get that change made.
So when we do substitutions of that kind, do we adhere 100% to it doesn't run here, therefore you can't sub it in? Or do we try and open it up a little more so people can make use of the other locos they've got?
So it depends how outrageous it is. If it rarely runs there and doesn't run there, then we probably wouldn't put it in the substitution. If it has run there on a special, for example, which is something people might want to particularly recreate, then we might do that. But we've got very limited control over how often it turns up. There are some controls, but they're a bit of a blunt instrument, and that means that if we enable it to happen, you might find that a chunk of the services are now doing this thing that should be 1 in a million chance. And the other thing we can't do at the moment is differentiate between whether the player can do it or whether the AI can do it. So we might, for example, want to allow the player to choose any of their rolling stock, regardless of whether it's there. That's your choice. But allow the AI to only pick sensible stock that would naturally run there. So we can't differentiate. If the player can choose it, the AI can choose it currently. So there's some overhauling work needed for the substitution system to allow it to be a little bit more flexible. But we haven't got that on any plans at the moment.
Does the 363 also do some Dosto shunting?
No. It's just doing services, managing tanks between Riesa Yard and the non-crits facility.
Okay. Issue 165, a regular here in these places, asks, what's the point of all these go vias? Why do the go vias exist?
I gotta be honest, I don't know. I didn't build the service mode, so I'm going to find out, because I can't think of why they're here either, to be honest. They're not controlling the flow of the train in terms of joining junctions and so forth. Right. So I don't know why they're here either, at all. They're just getting annoying, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I'm looking at them going like, oh, there we go, destination's coming up, and I go, smash it, start to warm up my my end of stream mutterings. And I kind of go, oh no, it's a go via. Oh, flipping egg.
Oh, I think they're there to award points for freight services. That might be the thing. Otherwise, freight services generally don't award any points. That's a good point, Ed. Actually, I'd forgotten about that. But they need to be. There's ways we can make them less visible, hide them, but you still earn the points for doing it. So we'll work on improving
also,
that.
Given that freight is not time-based, isn't it just going to reward you with perfect points every time you go through one?
Yeah, you will just get 100% of the points every time you go through it. Yeah. So effectively, the variability on freight is based on speed limit adherence, essentially, because there is no precise stop at any point, really. On
actual Emil there makes a very good point, which is it's also a little bit confusing because the go via icon is the stop here icon. And I've stopped at a go via on numerous occasions thinking I was supposed to stop there.
Right, here's the stop at. Yes, it is, and there is actually an icon in the library for a go via, and for some reason the UI is not using it. So that is a bug on the UI designers or implementers task list to. I'm sure it's an extensive job to change that icon, but yeah, we'll get that done.
Yeah, there we go. See, look, we've got other people saying I also stop at go vias, and you kind of go, yeah, it's because you're not paying enough attention, and I'm the chief of not paying enough attention, and therefore if other people are doing it too, then that means it's all of us. Let's get an icon I want it put in. Can we put an icon on the big roadmap of dreams?
An icon, yes.
The wish list of delights.
Ziva.
5 kilometres, green lights. I'm going to put some speed on.
165 saying I've gone through stations thinking they were go vias as well. No, that's the reverse problem. Yeah. Oh, okay. No, I've not done that one.
I do.
I'm too prone to stop.
No, go via icon has got 2 arrows, if I remember rightly, 1 in, 1 out, or something like that. But we'll. What I'll do is I'll get the UI designer to come up with something which is appropriate. And
just an arrow pointing straight up. That's all it needs. Just straight up arrow. Keep going. That's all it needs to do. I respond saying it has arrows? Question mark. Yeah. When PIS gets updated later, is it going to have the final destinations or also the intermediate stops that aren't on the map, like it is in Rapid Transit and East Coastway?
So when we do the update, I definitely want to get the final destinations on so that everything shows up correctly. Whether or not we get all of the other stations in, because that's quite a large job, I'm definitely not going to promise that. But if we get it in, again, we'll give you an update on what's in there. I'm going to put that one on the unlikely, but I've not ruled it out.
Straight up, yeah, that's where I fly off into space. I haven't done that in a while. I think I'm overdue.
Just to get you to drive a TGV again.
Well, no, I could drive anything and it'll take off.
Habits wagons on a freight?
Nice.
Zugbeeinflussung.
Is the distance counted along the track or still as the crow flies? It is still as the crow flies. That hasn't been resolved yet.
No.
I hasten to say yet, because I think that's something that everybody wants.
It's on the list, but there's no plan in place for looking at it yet.
SIFA. Zugbeeinflussung.
Actually, I didn't see that, Matt. I don't know if you clocked that or not, but apparently the pantograph was down on the freight train coming the opposite direction. Did you see that?
I didn't see that, no. I acknowledge.
We'll have to watch the replay. Sometimes these details can be missed. I take your comment at face value. But,
yeah, we'll watch that again and I will...
Did you just break it again?
I thought I'd acknowledged.
Oh, for crying out loud, Matt.
Well, you know, 1.8 kilometres away. I wanted to get one more test of PZB in for you.
I've got other things planned this evening, Matt.
Really?
And if you keep stopping every 500 metres because you can't work a train, that's interfering with my lofty notions of fun times.
Oh, well, can't allow fun times. Someone's just mentioned the road traffic. Yes, some additional cars and stuff has been added to the roads just to add a little bit more variety to that traffic. Yes, well spotted. I'm not using PZB release. I just used PZB release now once I'd stopped, but I'm using the acknowledge.
Blue Games has just confirmed that the pantograph was down. Now, if that's an AI-only service, so a non-drivable one, is it possible to be running with the pantograph down? My understanding was that AI player-drivable trains, they have to be set up correctly.
So AI, it's probably an animation thing, in that the animation is just not being set up correctly as part of the AI. Because AI is not obviously using full simulgraph. It's got a simplified version of the physics, and it has to have a separate set of setup instructions to achieve all the right things in there. Possibly one's been missed, so I'll get someone to look at that.
Yeah, the chat are onto something there. Matt, the cars are on the wrong side of the road.
They are, aren't they?
Matt, there's
wow.
Yeah, we're a very British company, aren't we? Honestly,
SIFA.
cars are on the wrong side of the road, Matt.
Yeah, clearly.
Zwangsbremsung.
fuck.
I saw that red signal. I was going, that red signal obviously doesn't mean red because I'm not a signalling expert.
Well, it's red with the white, which I
Zwangsbremsung.
thought meant I could go.
Zwangsbremsung.
All right, look, the car's being on the wrong side of the road, you kind of go, that's the level of attention to detail that we need. Especially since the head of QA is German.
Yeah, I don't know how that's been missed. That's it's Sam's fault, is it, Liam? Thanks. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I don't know how that's been missed on the traffic. I'm going to add that to my list of discussions tomorrow.
Yeah, I think whenever I don't know if I just have a habit of making you add things to the list. I think I possibly do, but they're going to start keeping track of all the things you've said are going on the list.
Mm.
And while the signal was red, the next signal indicator was green. It's like it wasn't even seeing that signal, I think, says Bloggins.
Yeah, well, what I'll do is I'm going to get this preview run, this video run by one of the people that set the signalling up, and get them to confirm what I did wrong or what they did wrong.
I'm surprised that QA didn't pick that up. I mean, as much as, yes, that is the sort of thing that you'd think that's something we should pick up. Here's the thing. We looked specifically at the traffic. We took a moment to look specifically at the traffic, and looking at it from the angle we're at now, which is the one you're going to use when you're driving, you wouldn't notice that they're on the wrong side because you're focused on driving. So it is. How often do we get QA to specifically look at traffic? I don't think that's part of their test plan.
It is, and they have picked it up on other routes. It has actually been picked up. That's one of the reasons I'm extra confused that it hasn't been picked up on this one.
Oh, in which case I retract everything I just said.
Yeah, because it has been picked up on other routes. I think at one point we had a UK route with trains with cars driving on the wrong side, and that was fixed because they picked it up. So yeah, I need to find out how that one's been missed, and I get the rest of the route checked to see if it's right everywhere else.
The bad guy 89 says it's almost like not a bad idea with all the bugs going on that we should push the release of this back. Now here's where the balancing act comes in, is because we're in a schedule now of routes launching close together, it means that we have multiple patch update windows going on in there as well. So the stuff we are looking for, or the stuff that would mean no, that simply won't do, is anything that interferes with your ability to play it, that interferes with your ability to complete routes, or if there are numerous AI services that just lose the plot entirely. That's the kind of thing that really gets in the way. Inconsistencies and a bit of dubious background scenery, that can be resolved, but it is not usually felt to be significant enough to be a go no go kind of a stopper. So as much as you kind of go, well, you just saw something obvious, if it's not going to interfere significantly with the experience of driving a train, and let's face it, the car's in the background on the wrong side of the road, yeah, it's stupid, but it's not going to overly interfere with your ability to drive a train and complete the tasks that are set out for you. It's not the kind of thing that's going to hold back a release.
Let's just pretend this is the end of the journey, yeah?
Why? What are you expecting to happen next?
Well, I'm now going to have to wait a while for the brakes to release again because the PZB went off again. So, leave it with me. I will find out what I'm doing wrong here, and then when we come to do the tutorial, I'll be able to pretend I know everything I'm talking about, and everyone will forget this stream. Okay, I'll get the little torch to make you all forget. Okay.
Well, Gareth, I mean, it's a fair question, and here's the thing: is you've seen us playing it. The preview streams, we try to do them all live, so you can get a feel for what it is we're going to be giving you, and that's why we do one on release day as well, so you can kind of go, here is the state that this route is in, and we believe that it is a state that is suitable for you to play. If you don't feel that way, then you can always hold on, or otherwise. And obviously, if we get that kind of cut off between is suitable for play and isn't suitable for play, if we get that wrong, then you'll tell us loud and clear by not picking it up. But that's why we try and offer as much visibility as possible in terms of what we're actually delivering.
So people are actually saying that that wasn't the signalling's fault. That was indeed my fault, because that signal, as a shunt signal, you have to use the PZB BEFL 40 when you go through it, because it has a hot 2000 Hz magnet. So the signalling system is working great, the driver less so.
716 fan has got a rail fan has got a question regarding PZB. How do you decipher which PZB modes to use for freight? What classifies U mode versus M mode?
So in reality, there are some calculations based on the braking ability of the train within and the load and how heavy the train is. What I would say is, when you're driving the train, if you're finding that it's tough to stop, then you want to use PZB mode U. U will make you go slower and give you more time to slow down. whereas M will let you go a bit faster, but you'll need to be able to stop a bit quicker. So if you find the train is actually quite nippy because it's light, or you've got a lot of braking power on with a big loco, then you can use PCBO mode M. But particularly on something like main specific barn, you need to use U more often, because if you're going downhill, you need much more time to slow it down. So our red leader says, rule of thumb, if it's more than 1600 ton mode U, otherwise use M. But normally
that's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. And I've used mode M for this. But yeah, when you run it, you find that you're not able to stop in time for the PZB, that's a good indicator you need to be trying it on mode U.
I need to spend a whole day at some point just playing services with PZB turned on, because I still don't understand it.
Apparently I don't understand it as well as I thought.
Well, you were multitasking, so I'll forgive some of it. I'll forgive 50% of you fouling up the PZB. But even so, you teach PZB to other people, and therefore you don't have any excuses. But I'm just letting you off because I'm nice like that. Yeah.
Oh dear, let's put the cameras back on then.
Right, okay. Do we need to see anything else today? What else is there that we haven't seen yet that we could probably do in the release stream?
Bit of 363 action.
That'd be good.
I don't know. Tell us what you want to see, folks.
Yeah. So we'll be back next week, this time with the release of this route, and I don't know who's going to be driving. If you're very lucky, in inverted commas, it will be me doing shunting, but we really don't want that. We want Natalie doing shunting because she loves it. Yeah, no, put Natalie in a shunter. That'll keep her happy all day. Smashing. Thanks very much for tuning in today. If you've got, we've spotted that you do like a feedback thread every time we do one of these streams. They're really useful. Please keep that coming.
Yeah.
It helps us identify the big versus the not so big when it comes to areas of your feedback. We like. When you like what we've made, that makes us quite cheerful.
Yes.
And there's always going to be a little bit of rough and a little bit of smooth. So we want to see where you think that those differences are. You can post it on any of our channels, and we'll get to it in due course. Matt, over to you because you're driving.
Thanks very much for watching, everybody, and we'll see you on the next stream, which I don't know when that is. I'm assuming it's next week, Sam. Sometime.
Probably.
Yeah.
You're on tomorrow.
There'll be what? Oh, I'm on tomorrow, aren't I?
Yeah, you're teaching people how to use signals, Matt.
Oh, I better learn how to use signals then. Right, excellent.
Yeah, it's a minor detail, but
I should probably
get good.
Right, yeah, okay. I'm going to be getting good between now and tomorrow. In the meantime, everybody else, we'll catch you later on. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.
Cheerio.